What happens when two teens investigate a strange radio signal, only to uncover a chain of disappearances that leads them straight into the same fate? Let's find out in the 2019 movie, The Vast of Night. The story begins with a black and white television broadcast playing on screen. As the program continues, the scene slowly shifts to a busy high school in New Mexico. The whole town is getting ready for a big basketball game, and the school is packed with students, teachers, and volunteers preparing for the event. Among them is Everett, an 18-year-old high school student who also works as a local radio DJ. Everett is known for being dependable and quick on his feet, so he's helping make sure everything at the school runs smoothly before the game starts. It's clear this is a big night for the town, and everyone is excited. During the preparations, Everett runs into his friend Fay. Fay is curious, imaginative, and always full of ideas. She's especially excited because she recently got her hands on a new tape recorder. She can't stop talking about it and proudly shows it off to Everett. The two chat for a bit before leaving the school together and heading toward Fay's workplace. Fay works as a switchboard operator, which is an important job at the time. Calls can't be made directly, so operators like her have to manually connect people through a central exchange. As they walk, Fay talks nonstop about the future and the kinds of technology she believes people will someday have. She imagines cars that can guide drivers automatically, fast trains that travel at incredible speeds, and transportation systems built underground. She even talks about small portable devices with touch screens that would allow people to see and talk to each other face-to-face from far away. Everett listens, but he doesn't really take her ideas seriously. To him, they sound like fun but unrealistic daydreams. He sees Fay's thoughts as a mix of curiosity and youthful imagination, not something that will ever actually happen. Still, he enjoys listening to her enthusiasm. When they reach the telephone exchange, Everett heads off to the radio station while Fay starts her shift at the switchboard. Once settled in, Fay tunes her radio to Everett's program so she can listen while working. Everything seems normal at first, but then Fay hears something strange coming through the broadcast. It's an odd sound, unlike anything she's heard before. It doesn't sound like music or normal radio interference. It's unsettling enough that it immediately grabs her attention. Confused and a little concerned, Fay calls Everett to ask if he noticed the sound. At first, Everett isn't sure what she's talking about. He hadn't picked up on anything unusual. But as Fay describes it in more detail, insisting it didn't sound natural, Everett starts to take it seriously. He listens closely and begins to wonder if the sound might have been recorded accidentally on the station's equipment. Curious and now fully interested, Everett decides to investigate further. After checking the recordings, he confirms that the sound really was captured on his equipment. It's unfamiliar and unsettling, and he can't figure out where it came from. To get more information, Everett makes an announcement on his radio show. He asks listeners to call in if they've ever heard the sound before or recognize it. He plays the audio on air, hoping someone out there might have an answer. Not long after, Fay receives a call at the switchboard from a man who claims he knows the sound. She quickly patches the call through to Everett. The man begins telling a story from his past that immediately stands out. He explains that he once served in the military and was involved in a secret assignment he was never supposed to talk about. One day, he and his team were taken to a remote location and instructed to dig a large pit shaped like a quadrilateral. They weren't told why they were there or what they were looking for. As they dug, they uncovered a massive machine buried underground. The men weren't allowed to examine it closely or ask questions. Armed guards closely monitored them at all times. The workers continued their task under strict supervision until the project suddenly ended without explanation. They were rushed away from the site, confused and uneasy. Before leaving, the man recalls hearing the same strange sound Everett had just played on the radio. It seemed to come from both the ground beneath them and the sky above. The sound stuck with him long after the job ended. After returning home, the man became seriously ill. He later learned he had been exposed to high levels of radiation. When he tried to contact others who had worked on the project, he discovered many of them were also sick, and some had already died. Those who survived were left with long-term health problems and unanswered questions. One of the men involved became completely obsessed with the strange sound. He went on to work in radio, determined to track it down and understand where it came from. Over time, he recorded the sound and sent copies to everyone connected to the project, hoping someone might eventually figure it out. According to the caller, one of those recordings was sent to a man living in New Mexico. Before hanging up, he gives Everett the man's name, suggesting it could be an important lead. Everett pauses after hearing the name, only to learn that the man has already passed away. His belongings? including anything he may have owned related to the sound, were donated to the local library. With that information, Everett and Fay realized their next stop might bring them closer to the truth behind the mysterious broadcast. Determined to learn more, Everett and Fay head to the local library to follow up on the lead they were given. After searching through the donated items, they come across a tape labeled with the name of the deceased man mentioned by the caller. Seeing this feels like a breakthrough, so they don't waste any time. They grab the tape and head straight back to Everett's radio station. Once there, they listen to the recording. This tape is different from the one they heard earlier. The strange sound is much longer and clearer, making it even more unsettling. Everett realizes that broadcasting this version might jog someone's memory or help listeners recognize it more easily. Without overthinking it, he plays the tape on air and once again asks anyone with information to call in. Not long after the broadcast ends, Fay receives another call at the switchboard. This time, the caller is a woman who claims she knows much more about the sound than anyone who has called before. However, she refuses to explain anything over the phone. Instead, she insists that Everett and Fay come to her house in person, saying the story is too important to share any other way. Curious and a little unsure, Everett and Fay decide to go meet her. When they arrive, they find an elderly woman waiting for them. She invites them in and begins telling a story from her past that has stayed with her for most of her life. She explains that many years ago, an entire train carrying hundreds of passengers disappeared without a trace. Authorities searched everywhere, but no wreckage, bodies, or clear explanation was ever found. The incident shook the city, and over time it turned into one of those mysteries people whispered about but never fully understood. According to the woman, the story didn't end there. Sometime after the train vanished, people discovered an elderly woman wandering through nearby bushes. She claimed she had been a passenger on the missing train and said she had jumped off moments before it disappeared. Her family took her in, relieved to have answers, but things quickly became strange. Over time, the old woman's behavior became unsettling. She would often sit alone, speaking quietly in a language no one recognized. The sounds she made were odd and difficult to understand, and they sounded eerily similar to the strange noises Everett had played on the radio earlier. As her behavior worsened, the family became scared. Eventually, they locked her in a room to keep an eye on her. One night, she disappeared, escaping through a window and never being seen again. The elderly woman continues her story, explaining that years later she grew up, got married, and started a family of her own. For a while, her life was normal, but things took a disturbing turn when her youngest son and daughter began making the same strange murmuring sounds she remembered from the old woman years ago. Worried, she took her children to doctors, hoping for some kind of explanation. None of them could offer answers. As time went on, the strange behavior continued, especially with her son. He would often mumble quietly, as if trying to communicate something that didn't quite make sense. Then one day, her son disappeared. He vanished behind their house without any sign of a struggle. When she went looking for him, she followed his footprints until they suddenly stopped in the middle of the path, as if he had simply disappeared into thin air. No body was found, no clues were left behind, and no explanation ever surfaced. She tells Everett and Fay that she has spent her entire life searching for her son, but she never found him. The mystery of the train, the strange sounds, and her son's disappearance have haunted her ever since. She believes they are all connected. At the end of her story, she explains that she believes her son was taken by aliens. Hearing this, Everett starts to doubt how reliable the woman's story is. While the details are disturbing, the conclusion makes him question whether she might be suffering from mental health issues. Feeling that they won't get any more solid information, Everett and Fay politely leave her house. As they head back toward the radio station, Fay receives a call from her sister. Her sister sounds panicked and says she saw something strange moving across the sky. Alarmed, Fay insists that they go check it out right away. Since they're far from the station, Everett and Fay flag down a passing car and ask for a ride. Inside the car is a married couple who agree to help them. As they drive, Everett decides to play the mysterious tape again, thinking it might help if they encounter anything unusual. As the tape plays, something strange starts to happen. The eerie sounds seem to affect the couple in the car. They begin acting oddly, as if they're losing focus or control. The car starts drifting off course, almost like it's being pulled in another direction. Realizing something is wrong, Everett quickly shuts off the tape. The husband and wife regain their senses. Terrified, Fay jumps out of the car and runs toward the nearby forest. Everett follows after her, calling out and trying to keep up. As they run deeper into the woods, they suddenly come to a stop In front of them is something they can barely believe, a large UFO hovering nearby. Bright lights shine from the spacecraft, lighting up the surrounding area. Everett and Fay stand frozen, staring in shock. Without warning, the scene abruptly shifts back to the high school gymnasium from the beginning of the story. The basketball game is over, and people are filing out of the building, chatting and heading home as if nothing unusual has happened. As the crowd thins, the camera focuses on the gym floor. There are footprints leading away, along with Fay's tape recorder lying abandoned. However, Fay and Everett are nowhere to be seen. The implication is clear. Everett and Fay are gone, likely taken by the same force responsible for the strange sounds, the missing train, and all the unexplained disappearances before them. The story ends without answers, leaving behind questions about what really happened and what became of everyone who got too close to the truth.